They say almost $2 trillion worth of student debt is stressing out Americans. Forgive it though.
I'm not sure how relatable this is going to be for my viewer demographic, but I need to talk about.
My wife and I are drowning a little bit in debt. So we both have advanced degrees.
I wanted to talk about Student Loan Plan 2 today because I saw a video yesterday from a creator who was talking from her experience, so no hate, about how she pays a little back every month, how she doesn't understand why people see it as a debt, why she doesn't understand why people are striving to pay it off early. And I wanted to come at it from a different point of view because I feel like there's a massive misconception about Student Loan Plan 2. And I mean, I was definitely one of the people who took it out at 18 thinking I would never ever pay it off. But things have changed and I will pay it back before the 30 years. I will also pay back tons of interest. So it's obviously in my prerogative now to actually start paying it off early. I had a look last night at how much interest I will pay back over the term if I continue just paying the minimum payment amounts. And it will be 90,000 in 20 years, which I find absolutely mind-blowing. My loan was literally 40k. It's mind-blowing that I will end up paying double what I actually took out. So I'm actually going to put a commitment in every month to actually start paying it off early, but I'm going to talk about that in another video. But I did see some quite worrying comments on this video because there was lots of people saying oh, if you're a higher earner, you deserve to have more come out of your paycheck every month to pay it off and that kind of thing. And I don't know, that doesn't really sit right with me because I think people forget that we signed up for a loan. It literally is called a student loan. It wasn't advertised as a student tax or graduate tax or anything like that. A lot of people see it that way now because they might never pay it off, and I understand obviously if you lost your job or anything, you're not committed to it like you would be if you took out an actual loan. But for high earners, it is a loan because you will pay it back and you're paying massive interest, and the interest obviously can go up and down. But obviously interest at the moment is crazy high. It's 7%. I'm not going to get 7% on my savings anyway, so obviously it's in my interest to start paying it off. But yeah, I was thinking last night, it's kind of crazy that there'll be some people who pay $5,000 back in their lifetime, but there'll be some people who pay 90, 100k for the same education. I never thought of that when I took out the loan. I'm sure lots of other people didn't. And obviously there's no hate for people who are paying that amount of money because that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Sometimes I do think if I knew what I do now back then, would I maybe have taken out that amount of money? Not really sure.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm 26. I personally have $34,000 in student loan debt, and I'm going through examples of how quickly you can pay off your student loan debt if you pay more than the minimum. This user has $17,000 in student loan debt. I am estimating that their minimum payment is $200 a month, but I do not know this for certain, and their interest rate is 5%. If they paid my estimated minimum payment of $200 per month, it would be paid off by May 2032, and they would have paid $4,073 in interest. If they increase their payment by just $50 per month, they would have it paid off by April of 2030, and they would have paid $3,061 in interest. If they paid just $50 more again with $300 per month, it would be paid off by December of 2028, and they would pay $2,456 in interest. If they bumped up the payments to $500 a month, it would be paid off in August of 2026, and their interest would be $1,382. If they bumped it up even more to $650, it would be paid off in November of 2025, and they would pay only $1,046 in interest. If they're able to pay $750 per month, it could be paid off by July of 2025, and interest would only be $902. If this was my situation, I personally would pay between $500 and $650 a month. And any extra money you have after making this payment, I think would be better spent in an investment account or towards something fun for yourself.
I have $75,000 worth of student loan debt, and I'm not stressing. I don't feel bad for having to take out that amount of money. Statistically, I understand why I had to take out that amount of money. Could I have paid for college in a different way? Yes, but I don't ever regret the college that I went to, the decisions I made while I was in college, or any of that. I don't regret anything about college, just how I paid for it. Do I wish that I was a little bit more tenacious and applied to more scholarships and all of those kind of things? Yes. But I want people to be very fucking for real. I was the youngest of 6 children, and there was no other way for me to be able to afford school. And I'm super grateful for my parents. They put me on the Parent Plus loan, which a lot of people can't even qualify for because they believed in me, they believed in my dreams, and they knew that this is what I needed to make it to the other side. So during this time where there's a lot of turmoil, we don't really know what's happening with student loans and the payoff. Some of us really only had 2 choices, and that was either no college or student loans. I want to remind any person who is like me, you did what you had to do. And from there, you have to keep it moving. keep striving, keep doing the things that we have to do because we had to make a hard decision. There is no shame in borrowing money because rich people do it all the fucking time. No shame in borrowing money to create the life that you need to in the long run.
Let's talk about my debt payoff plan and why I'm actively choosing to not aggressively pay off my student loans. So I recently posted a video revealing that I have $34,000 worth of student debt that I'm paying $325 to every single month. I break this debt down into two main categories. One is going to be my public student loans, and then one is going to be private student loans. My public student loans equate to $24,000. This is a combination of subsidized and unsubsidized loans that I put $250 to every single month. And these are a variety of individual loans, so the interest rates range anywhere from 2.5% to 4.8%. And then for my private student loans, I was very lucky to have a family member who's willing to loan me some money to pay for college, and the balance of this right now is $10,000. This is a 0% interest rate. They're not charging me any interest, which is so nice of them, and we agreed upon that I would pay them $75 a month over the course of the next 10 years. And I got a question from a lot of people saying, if you have such a high income, why are you putting such a low amount of money towards your student loans every month? And the reason is because I put every additional dollar that I have on top of my monthly expenses to investments. If I ever finish the end of the month with additional cash left over in my budget, or I get any sort of bonus from work or infusion of cash, I immediately put a large percentage of that money into investments, typically into an ETF that tracks the S&P 500 or the total stock market. And the reason is, over the last 20 years, the S&P 500 has returned 9.7%, which is significantly higher than the highest interest rate that I have for my loans of 4.8%. So this means that putting my money to work in the stock market in the long run is going to make me more money than the amount of money that I am going to pay in interest on my loans. Let me know if you guys have questions, and I'm curious what your approach to debt payoff is.
I have student loans that total just over $1 million.
You're kidding me.
And no, sir.
What were you thinking?
Well, I wasn't thinking clearly. So I've sat down and calculated my interest rates, and my interest is about $5,800 a month. So my fiance and I were trying to decide what's the best way to try to attack this.
When are you getting married?
April.
Okay. And what will you be making as an orthodontist?
About $250.
Okay. And what does she do, and what will she be making?
We actually just opened up an office, and she works in the office, so she's not taking any income out of the office.
Okay. This is such an extreme situation. Your income is extreme, and your debt is extreme, that you have to be very, very careful to just act like you're a broke college student because you are a broke orthodontist.
Right.
And so that means you guys aren't going on vacations. You're not buying a house. You're not leasing a new BMW. You're not going to a restaurant. You have $1 million. I can't even say it out loud. I can't breathe. $1 million in student loan debt. It gives me an anxiety attack, and it's not even my debt. But the horrible news is that ridiculous figure. The wonderful news is you have great income potential and a great income right now. So you cannot relax.
Right. So
you have to cut as deeply as you can cut.
Right.
And so be dialing your taxes in. I don't want you to get behind on taxes, but other than taxes and food and water and electricity, I really want everything else just going on student loan debt. The good news is you've got a great shovel, and you have a great bright future with your income potential, and that gets you out of this. It's not a reason to get into it, but it does get you out of it. It gives you hope for your future.
I'm not sure how relatable this is going to be for my viewer demographic, but I need to talk about the debt that I'm swimming and drowning in, and the anxiety that I have every day. Horrible anxiety because of it. Now, me personally, I am I'd say about $200,000 in debt total, with all my student loans and credit card debt and just other debt. So, and I know I chose to go to NYU. I don't regret it at all. I loved living in New York City. I loved NYU, and we all knew I was crying about it 2 years ago when I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be in debt after I graduate. But now that we have to pay it back, I'm extremely alarmed and really scared and terrified. And like obviously living in New York is really, really expensive. So I have a lot of credit cards that I'm pretty much maxed out on. So don't really have any credit that I can use, and my credit score sucks because of that and because of my loans. So that's really cool. Also, I just took literally like the first job I was offered after I graduated because I didn't have a job, and debt, credit cards, medical bills, and they're paying me literally the bare minimum. But I wanted to move back to New York City as soon as possible because I wanted to, like, what 24-year-old doesn't want to go back to living on their own? Like, I don't want to live with my parents, no offense. So I'm going to do that because I love New York City. So I know what you're thinking. Wow, you're really crazy because you're in that much debt and you're going to go move to the most expensive city in the world. Yes, I am. With that being said, more than half of my monthly income will be going towards my rent. So I have to get a second job to work in order to live in New York City. And still with that second job, I'm going to be struggling to pay my bills. And then how am I going to have fun? Going out to dinner one night cost me like $100. And don't even get me started on the medical bills because I keep getting these notices that I have to pay like $20 for an appointment I went to like 2 years ago. And then they're like, we're going to send you to collections. So that is fun. I also have a dentist appointment next week, and they're going to literally be like, you have 8 cavities. So looking forward to that bill as well. But yeah, like I really just want to cry and scream and throw up all day, every day. And I don't know if anyone can relate, but I'm going to be in debt for the rest of my life. So might as well live it up in New York City and go into more debt.
My wife and I are drowning a little bit in debt. So we both have advanced degrees. We're looking at about $400,000 in student debt, about $200 on a mortgage, and essentially the interest on my loan comes out to about $1,500 every month. Kind of the thing that's slowing us down to make any progress, kind of putting us in a paycheck to paycheck situation.
Are you guys using both degrees?
Yeah, we're both practicing chiropractors.
Awesome. What's the household income?
About $120.
That feels low. Are both of you working full time?
Yeah, we're both early in our careers.
Are you working for another practice right now?
Yeah, both of us are at separate practices.
So I hate to tell you this, but as a guy who's got advanced degrees who ran up a bunch of student debt, you're going to have to do the job that you get to feel prestigious about, and you're going to have to do a bunch of other work on the side.
We need to figure out what it looks like to at least pay off your debt with an aggressive timeline. Let's say if it's 7 years, that's $57K a year, which means all of one of your gross incomes would need to be going toward the debt, which I don't think you guys can do right now, right? With your minimum payments, your mortgage. So we need to figure out how to get the income up in order to pay off this debt in an aggressive timeline. And that the only way to do that is by spending less and making more. So one option is you sell the house, you rent to alleviate at least that mortgage weighing you guys down, and you go work every single weekend, and one of you's working one night, the other one's you're switching off.
We're gonna call this talking about my debt so you feel better about yours. Just you wait. This is I promise you'll feel better. I think one of the scariest things to me right now is my student loan debt. I'm gonna say I was just a girl when I got them. I didn't understand the consequences. I was freshly 18 and someone let me sign my life away. I think until I just graduated, I didn't understand like how hard it was to pay off loans, like student loans, especially when my private loans, don't even get me started, I know, but my private loans interest rate was almost 16%. I was never going to pay that off, so I actually refinanced all my private loans. I left my government loans as they were. I don't have that many government loans. So anyways, I just refinanced my private student loans with SoFi. They were a Discover private student loans. Interest rate is down to like 6.9. I can't find it on here right now. I remember because I signed up for AutoPay, it dropped the interest rate from like 7.2 to 6.9 something, which is way better than the almost 16% that they were. I will take it, no complaints here. Now for the big reveal of how much student loans I have. In my private student loans that I just refinanced, I owe $88,897.14. Yeah, that's like the worst of it. And Mohela is not working right now. That's where the government loans are coming through. I do remember I owe about $27,000 in change on there. And then my interest rate, my highest interest rate, because they're all separate loans from each semester. My highest interest rate is from my last 2 semesters, and they are both 5.5%, but everything else is like around 4% higher or lower, so not too terrible. I think my monthly payments on those are $236 or something like that, which obviously I plan to pay more than that. However, my private loan payments per month, I'm on a 15-year repayment plan, just because I don't want to trap myself. If I chose the 10-year, it was about a little less than $1,100 a month just for my private loans. I did not want to trap myself financially if like one month I just couldn't make that payment. So I chose the 15-year repayment plan. However, obviously I also plan to pay more towards these. I have like a chunk of my budget that's just going towards these loans. For my private loans that I just refinanced with SoFi, I owe $810.91 a month. So all in all, a little over $1,000 a month is gonna go towards my student loans. I'm very much okay paying it's criminal, but I'm very much okay paying over $1,000 a month. Right now, my budget template, I've set aside $1,200 a month for my loan payments. I did prepare for this because I'll show you guys, I'll do it like a budget my paycheck with me soon, but I set myself up in the sense that my cost of living is super low for where I live. I live in Boston, Massachusetts. My apartment, my rent is $1,000 a month in Southie, which is kind of crazy. And then like everything else that I have to pay monthly as like another $250. So I'm really not paying that much to be here. And so I'm not stressing too much about these, but it is a lot of money. My big dream is to pay these off in less than 10 years. Because right now my net worth is like negative $100,000. You can definitely say I'm starting from the bottom. Guys, moment of truth. Yeah, I'm like over $100,000 in student loan debt. I don't know how I got here either because I feel like my college wasn't that expensive. I'm very thankful for the ability to at least refinance, because if my interest rate had been like 16% on my loans, on my private loans, that is so much money. I would have never survived. I would have never been able to pay it off. I would have just been making these payments like a mortgage payment for the rest of my life. This is like, it doesn't seem more manageable. This is way, way, way more manageable. And again, like when you factor in adding extra per month, like it's so much more manageable than my 16% interest rate. I am very proud of myself for not having credit card debt on top of this, because I think if I also had credit card debt, I would lose my shit and I would feel very hopeless and I would 100% need a second job. But I've always been very good with my credit card. Very frugal, if you will. I don't spend the money unless I have it, and I think that's like a really good way of like keeping myself financially on track. Come along with me for this paying off my debt journey. I hope it goes so fast, like so fast.